Imagine going to bed after a completely ordinary day. Your family says goodnight. Your children fall asleep. The stars shine above a peaceful mountain lake. Everything feels normal. But before sunrise, almost everyone around you is dead. No one heard a scream. No one saw an attacker. No buildings collapsed. No fire burned through the village. There was no war, no poison, and no epidemic. Instead, an invisible force silently crept through the darkness, stealing the oxygen from the air itself. What could kill more than 1,700 people in a single night, without leaving a single wound? The answer wasn't hiding in the forest. It wasn't buried underground. It was waiting beneath the calm, beautiful waters of a lake. This is the unbelievable true story of Lake Nyos, the lake that became one of the deadliest natural killers in modern history. It was a quiet, peaceful night in the verdant highlands of northwestern Cameroon. The air was cool, the crickets were chirping, and the small, tight-knit communities surrounding Lake Nyos were fast asleep, dreaming of the harvest to come. Then, without warning, the silence was shattered by a low, ominous rumble that seemed to come from deep within the earth itself. Within moments, the atmosphere changed into something alien and deadly. By the time the sun rose over the rolling hills the next morning, an entire region had been silenced. Thousands of lives were extinguished in the span of a few hours, leaving behind a scene of such eerie, absolute stillness that it defied explanation. This was not a war, an earthquake, or a flood. This was a silent, invisible killer rising from the depths of a tranquil crater lake, a catastrophe so bizarre that it would take the world's leading scientists years to fully comprehend what had just unfolded. Lake Nyos, situated in a remote, mountainous region, appeared to be nothing more than a picture-perfect postcard of serenity. Surrounded by lush, green volcanic slopes, the deep blue water nestled in a caldera formed by an ancient volcanic eruption centuries earlier. To the villagers living in its shadows, the lake was a source of life. It provided water for their cattle, fish for their tables, and a beautiful backdrop for their daily routines. It looked harmless, almost gentle, a sleeping giant that had long since forgotten its fiery origins. Yet, beneath that placid glass-like surface, a nightmare was brewing. The geography of the region, characterized by volcanic activity deep underground, had created a geological trap. Over time, magma deep beneath the lake bed was leaking carbon dioxide gas upward, saturating the water at the bottom of the lake. Because the water was deep and cold, it acted like a high-pressure seal, trapping the gas in a state of suspended animation. It was a ticking time bomb that no one even knew existed. On the night of August 21, 1986, that delicate balance finally shattered. Scientists believe a minor disturbance, perhaps a small landslide or a change in the lake's temperature, triggered the release. Suddenly, the water column became unstable, and the carbon dioxide, long held captive by the immense pressure of the deep water, began to rise. It was like shaking a massive bottle of soda and pulling off the cap. But this was no soft drink. It was a lethal concentrated cloud of gas, heavy and invisible. The pressure forced the carbon dioxide upward with explosive force, erupting from the surface of the lake and surging into the surrounding valleys. The events that followed remain one of the most chilling accounts in modern history. The gas, being significantly denser than air, did not rise into the atmosphere. Instead, it clung to the ground, a silent, colorless, and odorless tide of death that flowed down the hillsides like a heavy fog. As it moved, it displaced the oxygen, effectively suffocating everything in its path. In the villages of Nyos, Kamcha, and Sabum, the impact was instantaneous. People in their homes, farmers out in the fields, and even animals grazing in the pastures simply stopped breathing. They did not wake up, they did not scream, and they did not know they were dying. They were overtaken by a blanket of carbon dioxide that replaced the life-sustaining air with a lethal concentration of CO2. Survivors, few as they were, recounted waking up to a terrifying silence. When they tried to step outside, they found their families, neighbors, and livestock lying exactly where they had been the night before. Some had died mid-conversation, others in their sleep, their bodies perfectly preserved but devoid of life. It was a scene of apocalyptic stillness. There were reports of people falling unconscious and later waking up, hours or days later, confused and surrounded by the dead. The scale of the loss was staggering. In total, 1,746 people were confirmed dead. Thousands of cattle and wild animals also perished. For the first few days, the outside world had no idea what had happened, as the remoteness of the region meant that news traveled slowly. When rescuers finally arrived, they were met with a sight that defied their understanding. They expected to find victims of a mysterious disease or a poisoning, but the evidence suggested something far more systematic. There were no signs of a struggle, no wounds, and no explanation for why such a diverse group of living beings would collapse simultaneously. It was the scientific community that eventually stepped in to unravel the mystery, identifying the phenomenon as a limnic eruption. This is an incredibly rare type of disaster where dissolved gases suddenly explode from the depths of a lake. Lake Nyos was uniquely dangerous because of its depth and its specific chemistry, which allowed it to hold massive amounts of gas without releasing it into the atmosphere over time. The lake had effectively become a massive liquid-based gas cylinder, and on that night, the cylinder ruptured. The aftermath was a period of profound grief and intense scientific scrutiny. The Cameroonian government and international aid organizations mobilized, but the primary concern was not just helping the survivors. It was understanding whether the lake would strike again. Scientists from across the globe flooded into the area, setting up sensors and monitoring stations. They discovered that while the initial eruption had released a significant portion of the gas, the lake was still recharging. The magma beneath the floor was continuing to feed carbon dioxide into the bottom layers of the lake, meaning that the potential for a secondary, perhaps even larger, catastrophe remained. For years, engineers and geologists worked tirelessly to devise a solution. The fear of a repeat disaster hung over the region like a dark cloud, and the local populations were terrified to return to their homes. The solution, while simple in concept, was a monumental feat of engineering. They designed a degassing system consisting of large pipes anchored to the bottom of the lake. These pipes, rising to the surface, allowed the pressurized gas to escape in a controlled, constant flow rather than building up and erupting all at once. It was a way of bleeding the lake, keeping the carbon dioxide levels low enough that another eruption would be physically impossible. This intervention changed the face of the landscape and offered a glimmer of hope to the survivors. It is a testament to human ingenuity that we can intervene in the forces of nature, but the disaster of 1986 serves as a sobering reminder of our vulnerability. The villages that were once vibrant hubs of activity have largely remained deserted, their history marked by the quiet, grassy mounds that now cover the stories of those who were lost. The lake itself, once feared as a demon of the mountains, has been tamed, but it remains a place of profound solemnity. It is a site of memory, a place where nature once showed its terrifying capacity to silence life. Without a whisper, the legacy of the Lake Nyos disaster goes beyond the scientific understanding of limnic eruptions. It serves as a reminder that our planet is a dynamic, shifting, and sometimes dangerous home. We often take the stability of our environment for granted, believing that the hills and lakes surrounding us are permanent and unchanging. But beneath the surface, forces beyond our control are always moving. The people of Nyos lived in harmony with their environment for generations, never suspecting that the very source of their water was also the source of their demise. As we look back at the tragedy, we are left with a mix of awe and melancholy. The sheer power of the earth is humbling, and the resilience of those who survived and worked to prevent future deaths is inspiring. The lessons learned from Lake Nyos have paved the way for monitoring other volcanic lakes around the world, potentially preventing similar tragedies elsewhere. We have learned to listen to the warnings of the earth and to respect the subtle signs that nature provides before a disaster strikes. Yet, even with all our technology and knowledge, we remain temporary guests on a planet that operates on its own timeline. The story of Lake Nyos is not just a chapter in the history of Cameroon. It is a profound lesson for all of humanity about the fragility of existence. The silence that fell over those hills in 1986 remains a powerful, haunting echo. It reminds us to cherish the life we have and to approach the world with curiosity and caution. We may have mastered the ability to vent the gas from a lake, but we have not conquered nature. Instead, we have learned to live alongside it, with a heightened awareness of the hidden dangers that lie just beneath the surface of our beautiful, complex world. The next time you look at a peaceful, undisturbed body of water, you might remember the village of Nyos and the invisible cloud that changed everything. In the dark of night, you will see not just the beauty of the landscape, but the hidden depth of the earth, a reminder that the world is a place of wonder and occasionally of overwhelming, quiet power. If you found this dive into one of history's most mysterious natural disasters as gripping as we did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us here at History Vibe. We are dedicated to uncovering the stories that shaped our world, from the forgotten tragedies to the grand narratives of the past. Click the bell icon so you never miss a new episode of our deep dive documentary series. There is so much more history to explore, and we are thrilled to have you with us on this journey. See you in the next one.